Hi, my name is Kim with Scholarly Pursuits. I want to welcome you back to my channel today. Today we're going to talk about negotiating salary and how to do that, how to ask for what you want, how to know what to ask. So let's get started. One of the things that can be most scary is asking people for things. Or some of us, I think, are more independent and we don't like to ask people for things. But there are times in your life when you need to just ask. There's been a saying that's been going around, I guess it's been a saying for years, but one I just heard about recently, and that is a closed mouth doesn't get fed. Well, what does that even mean? That means you have to ask for what you want, right? It's kind of an old school way of saying that. Doesn't mean you'll always get it, but ask for it, right? Some of us were raised to, kind of be independent and just work hard, or some of us were raised to, just be quiet and don't ask for a lot. If you're like me, you just kind of put your head down and work. You just go to work, put your head down and work. You don't bother a whole lot of people. But really, is that always the best way to be? I am of the belief that, especially in this day and age, sometimes what you don't know can cost you. And we don't want things to cost us that don't have to cost us, right? So one of the things as it relates to when you're going to get a new job, the question will invariably come up, how much do you want to be paid for this job? Or what are you thinking as far as pay? And so we don't want to go too far out on a limb and say, ooh, $1 million. And we don't want to say too little, because we are worth a lot and our skills and contributions are worth a lot. But how do we know how much? That's the question. So during this interview today, and during this discussion today, and during this talk today, we're going to look at how to find out how much to ask for. And then once you ask, what are the things that you should do after that, right? So researching salaries. There are websites out there. Did you know there are websites out there that you can find out salaries for different jobs and different types of jobs? So payscale.com, glassdoor.com, indeed.com. And then one of the places you can find out about jobs is on the job posting or the job announcement itself. And especially if you work in the organization, you're looking to to promote upwards, you have the resources of other people around you. Ask the hiring supervisor, ask the human resources officer or the human resources professional if they can give you any information about, what those jobs are paying for, what jobs are paying for. Ask, research Facebook groups and family and friends. Do whatever you can. Go to the library and see if the librarians can help you try to figure out what a good salary would be to ask for in this job that you're applying for, okay? So those are some different resources that you can utilize to try to figure out what should I even ask for. Sometimes what we're asking for might not be realistic. Sometimes the locale where we live doesn't pay as much. Sometimes where we live, it pays a lot more. If you live in New York City or California, you can expect salaries to tend to typically be a little higher maybe than if you live in the Midwest. But sometimes they're less desirable locations. Maybe people don't necessarily want to move to, I don't know, Wyoming or Montana because their family and friends, live in places like Chicago or a little closer to the Midwest or wherever your family might live. So that can be a way to look at different reasons for asking for more money. The location, the hassle factor, as it were, of that particular position. So I encourage you to ask for what you want. I encourage you to be willing to negotiate. Now, I'll tell you a story. My son recently was applying for a job, my youngest son, and it was a part-time kind of an entry-level job. And right away, when they came back with the salary, he asked for $1 more. Now, he's just kind of starting out in life, and so he asked for $1 more. I'm not exactly sure what that he based that on. He does usually do research on just about everything, but he asked for $1 more. Now, the employer came back and they counter-offered him, and they offered him 50 cents more. And he took that offer, right? But just think if he hadn't even asked, he would have gotten the salary that they offered the first time. You see what I mean when I say what you don't know can cost you, that they were even willing to pay more, right, to start at that job. Some employers are, and unless you ask, a lot of times we're fearful. We think, well, what if we don't get the job? We ask and they get turned off at the fact that they think we're greedy or something like that. You're not being greedy by valuing yourself, valuing the skill set that you bring to the table, and just saying, hey, this is what I believe I'm worth. This is what I believe the job that you're offering can handle as far as payment, the organization, and I would like to be considered for more. The next thing, and I do have a tablet here to kind of help me with my making sure I hit all the points. The next thing is understanding the skills and the experience and the education that you bring to the employer, right? The employer is looking for someone to fill a need, and you can fill that need, you believe. And actually, because now you're at the point where the employer is either offering you a job, or when you're applying for the job, they're asking you, what would you be willing to take for this job? And with that in mind, do you have a PhD? Do you have a little known skill in technology that other people don't necessarily have? Are you interested in cybersecurity and you have a certificate? Do you have years of experience? All those things can bring you more money when you're negotiating your salary for a potential employer. And you want to make that known. You want to ask the question, right? What I say, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. What you don't know can cost you. Years ago, I had applied for a job, a promotional opportunity at another state agency, and I received the job. And I am the type of person that I'm so grateful for every little thing. I was so grateful for the promotional opportunity. I was so grateful to be starting a new job with new responsibilities. I didn't even think to ask for more money. But guess what happens? After I got the job, I found that there were other people that were making more money than me doing the same job. And how did that happen? Because they negotiated their salary when they came on board, and they got it, right? They asked for more money. They asked to be advanced step. They based it on, their experience. They based it on their education, and they got the money. 2 different applicants, 2 different scenarios. One gets the increase in salary when they start, and one doesn't. What was the difference? Both brought experience and education. Some asked. I didn't, right? That was a lesson learned to me. Ask, you haven't lost anything. And that fear that gets in the pit of your stomach sometimes when you're like, I don't want to ask. I don't want to stand out. I don't want them to look at me differently. I don't want them to not give me the jobs. All the little doubts sometimes that might come into our mind. You haven't lost anything by asking, right? And a lot of times people will respect you that you do ask, right? And your family and your life, it's worth it for you to obtain as much money, as much benefits, as much resources as that employer is willing to give you for the job that they have in mind, right? So number 1, you want to research the salary. You want to go to that glassdoor.com, that payscale.com website, indeed.com, the job announcement, a family and friends, and Facebook pages and YouTube pages, and go to the library and research what a good salary is for the location that you live, for the organization or company that you're applying to, what might be a realistic range, right? We're going to talk about range a little bit later. And then also you want to look at your resume, you want to look at your CV, you want to look at your transcript and pull out what you believe is valuable, what you believe the employer will see as valuable resources for an employee. And then that's what you're going to use to sell, right? A lot of times in life, you're going to have to sell yourself, and you're going to have to sell what you bring to the table, because there's other applicants out there, right? There are other people that they could hire. And when it comes to negotiating your salary, why should I give you more money, Kim, right? Or why shouldn't I? You haven't lost anything by just asking a question. And often I found you will receive what you asked for, or maybe if not quite what you asked for, more than was originally being offered. So ask. And then what should you ask? You want to make sure you give a range. Sometimes in these job applications, they're asking for you either in the cover letter or in the job application itself. They're asking, what is your salary expectation? What are your requirements? What are you looking for as far as a salary for this position? So you need to be prepared to give a range, right? You don't necessarily want to just say $10,000 or $20,000 or $100,000, whatever salary requirements you have in mind, but you want to give a range. The low end, the least amount you're willing to accept, to the high end, right? Maybe a reach range. And then finally, you want to solicit feedback. Let's say if you ask for a particular salary and they say, we've looked at your experience, we looked at your education, and we just don't see that you would be a good fit for this company or this organization, given your experience and your education at that salary rate. Then there's nothing wrong with going back to the person and saying, well, what salary rate would you be comfortable considering me for, or what would be a good salary for the experience and education that you're seeing. Again, I have a son who did that recently, and he got some valuable information from the hiring professional as to what they would view his a salary for his education, as his experience, or what they're looking for as far as salary expectation. And then now he knew, right? He had a baseline for this particular city, what salaries are going for this type of company, this type of organization. Ask. There's lots of information out there. Don't be hesitant. Don't be shy. Don't be ashamed to do your research. Take notes. Organize your job search materials, and make sure that your next salary negotiation is a successful one. Now, this is Kim. Thank you so much for joining me today on Scholarly Pursuits. I look forward to talking to you in the coming weeks. And take care. If you've enjoyed the information that you've heard today, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share, and feel free to comment in the comment section on things that you've done to negotiate salaries, or people that you know that have successfully negotiated salaries, tips that you have for folks, and stories that have worked for you and not worked for you, because we can learn from all, right? Thank you. This is Kim. Have a great day.